This is Tyree's ETT. I'm going to try another simple how-to video, and basically all I'll be doing in this one is showing you how to take apart a simple car remote. Now this is two common styles. One is from a 03 to about a 05 model Nissan. This is from my 350Z, and this one right here is from around the same time period, maybe up to about an 06 model Chevy or GM, like a Pontiac or Cobalt or something along those lines. And it's also shot, this is the first video I'll be posting on here, shot with the new i-kam Extreme glasses, just to to give them a test run, see how they do. Okay, basically we'll start out with the GM remote. I'll show you how to change the battery in it, and I'll show you two common problems that go wrong with the remotes. It'll save you a lot of money. Pretty much on any battery, or not any battery, but any car remotes that don't have a screw to hold it together, usually you can look at it and go along the crease, and what you want to look for is an odd gap in it. See, like this one right here. What you want to use is just a flathead screwdriver. You kind of want to get a wider one, maybe even a little wider than this. Just barely press in and just give it a little turn. You'll see it pop open. And another thing a lot of people I've seen do, and it seems to be a common mistake for as simple as it is, if there's a key ring running through it, please remove it, or it will not come apart. And if you do, you take a huge risk on damaging it. And what you want to do is gently pry it apart. And usually one of the most common problems with them is they don't take shock very well, especially GM remotes for whatever reason. So the first thing you want to do is remove your battery. So if you want to take it out all the way to the board, push in on the button from the front. And then what you'll want to do is actually peel this rubber boot loose. Okay? Push over on your battery until you can pry it out. You may have to put something in between the back and gently. Don't push against this, but just pull back on the battery, like so. One of the most common problems is GM remotes, they don't take shock well. So if you can see right here at the tip of the screwdriver where that is soldered, this positive side for the battery is soldered onto the motherboard, a lot of times it'll break loose here, and this will actually pull loose from the board, which this one's almost new, it's really tight. But what you would want to do to fix that is you'd want to push them firmly against the board. Have a really hot soldering iron. When you have them against the board, you can gently push the board down so your fingers aren't on the back side and at risk of getting burnt. And then you'll want to take the soldering iron, and these are your two traces. If they leave open here, you can see solder still on them. You might want to get you just a little extra solder on the end of your gun. Barely hold in here until it melts back to the board. Barely hold in here until it melts back to the board. Try not to hold on too long. You don't want to cause any damage to any of the traces around. And you flip it back over after it dries for a second. This should be melted back on this side as well. And a lot of times that'll fix your problem that if the battery don't fix it. But if that comes loose, it'll be the same as not having any juice to the board at all. And sometimes it can be intermittent. Some people will take and wedge something in there if they can't solder it. Sometimes it'll fix it as long as you're getting contact. Okay, the second problem with these remotes. When you take everything apart, you'll notice that on this rubber, you have these small contact pads. I believe they're carbon or something along those lines. And basically all that happens is when you press the button on your remote, say your door lock, that would be your top left one here corresponding. If you notice, all these lines are separate. And basically all you're doing is shorting out that connection. And that little black piece has continuity. All it does basically closes that circuit like so. It just presses against it. Basically does the same thing if I was to take the screwdriver and press against it. It turns the switch on. And what will happen a lot of times is people will get soda or different types of chemicals like that down in it, and this will get a lot of oil on it. Sometimes this right here, they get green and corroded. And what you actually want to do is, I have a couple things here. You can take what I use on it is the wet or dry sandpaper 1500 2000 grit. sometimes even 800, or just like a Scotch Brillo top pad. And all you want to do is very gently, try not to hit too much of the green, but very gently, just kind of go in circles over the spot. And even if yours looks green, I mean like really bad and corroded, a lot of times you can get it back to looking almost brand new just by gently doing that, which again, this one's almost new, so it's not going to make a huge difference. So basically all you're doing is cleaning that contact, and you can take a rag and very lightly dampen it with alcohol and rub over it once you get done doing this to clean your contacts really good. And 9 times out of 10, if that was dirty when you started, or if that was corroded and your remote wasn't working, or it wasn't working every time, 9 times out of 10 that will fix it. Okay, and I'll move along quickly to the Nissan remote because there is one small difference in between it and the GM style remotes. But you'll run into it with a few other makes and models. Again, on this one it's not as plain. If you look around, it's really closed all the way around, but you notice the gap they put in here. And again, that is for taking it apart. So gently put something in between, turn, it'll pop. Pry it apart. On your Nissan battery, or the remotes, the battery actually stays in the case on this style. These aren't really prone for breaking apart. It's how they designed them pretty much not to be like the GM one. But you pull this out, you'll notice your buttons and everything. You can see how dirty that is just from being in your pocket. Okay, what you gently want to do is pull this loose. Now in Nissan they have a 2-piece. So you actually have this rubber cover, and you want to pay attention to the dimples. You want these dimples right here, just the plastic only, touching the rubber. When you flip that over, you can see the carbon, and that's what you actually want to touch the board. As you can see, these right here are looking pretty good too. But again, if I had one that was corroded or damaged, see, like say my lock button didn't work, I could actually take that and go over and clean it really good to where when this little thing right here is pressed in, this will demonstrate a lot better. When you press in on your rubber button, it goes through this, and it just presses that little black thing against those leads, and it closes the circuit. That's all that does. If that's corroded and you can't get that to close the circuit, or this right here can't touch it good, it's not going to work. So you want to clean these off real good with alcohol or whatever you have. You want to clean these with sandpaper or steel wool, or not steel wool. Definitely don't want to use steel wool because it'll leave particles, I'm sorry, but just some type of cloth, abrasive. Clean it really good, and that should fix it. So we're going to put what I like to call the dry side down, the carbon side. You want the shiny plastic side up. If you flip that over, you will not have contact. So you want to put that on first. You want to slip your rubber cover over it. You want to put that rubber cover back in the casing. Usually on pretty much any casing like that, you want to start it back on the opposite end of where you take it apart. So you want to put that on there, snap it together. And guys, that should pretty much cover the basic remotes. I'll get into some others later. I have some really old ones laying around that actually have the key built into it, the switchblade ones. I think I've got one from old BMW laying around. I'll give you an idea how to change the keys, or the batteries on the remotes for them too. But I hope that you found this not really amusing, but useful information, and we'll put it that way. And if you have any more questions, or you have just any thoughts that you want to add to this, or you have a question on how to take a particular remote apart, let me know. I'll see if I can get the remote and give a good little write-up on it, or common problems or fixes that you've noticed for the same thing. But guys, if you haven't already, please subscribe to my videos, or like this one if you found some useful information on it. Take care, YouTube.